Lights, camera, innovation. Walt Disney Studios chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business to transform the movie-making process. Together, we kept a remote production hub in Hawaii and sync with a team in California to bring Lilo and Stitch to theaters this summer. This is picture-perfect collaboration. This is Walt Disney Studios with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
This is Let the Record Show, using common sense. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg and Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse is the Vice Chair of the New York State Republican Party and the County Chair of the Suffolk County Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. We'll be having two interesting guests joining us today. One is District Attorney David Soares of Albany County, who's running for re-election, and the other is State Senator George Borrello, who's going to be talking about the future of New York State, this Proposition 1, which is a consumer fraud, as well as the importance of having Republicans win seats in the New York State Senate to avoid this overwhelming supermajority of the Democrats, which has destroyed the future of New York in terms of law and order, public safety, and the economy. So, Jesse, to begin, the elections are coming to a close. I want to share my thoughts with you. This has been a very strange campaign season, and the season's gone on for a couple of years. Two observations. One, Biden should have gotten out of the race a long, long time ago because he was totally unqualified to run again, raised real questions under the 25th Amendment whether he's fit to serve as president, but because of his obstinance, his ego, the ambition of his wife, Dr. Jill, and the gutlessness of the Democratic Party to do the right thing and protect this country by having a qualified, able president, he was going to run again, and he was going to be the nominee, and a great cover-up of the Biden family, the White House staff, the congressional leadership, everyone who was part and parcel of keeping Biden around for so long is guilty of selling us with Kamala Harris. Unproven, untested, unworthy. A woman with no record, a San Francisco progressive left-winger who has hurt America by her policies, whether it's on the border, whether it's on Afghanistan, whether it's on the economy, whether it's on divisive social issues. So, for example, having women exposed to men in their bathrooms, in their sporting teams, in their locker rooms, denying parents the right to know that their kids want a transgender and denying them that right. That's the California model. So that's what the Democrats did. Now, what did the Republicans do? In contrast, whether you like Donald Trump or you don't like Donald Trump, Jesse, he campaigned. He was out there. He was speaking about the issues. He put himself before the voters, and they went out there, and he fought for the nomination, and he won the nomination fair and square. There was no hiding Donald Trump. You knew who he was, what he stood for, and what his vision was. And fundamentally, his vision was, look at my record. I am a man who served in the office of presidency for 4 years. We had a successful country economically, national security. There were no wars. The border was closed. He did a great job. We didn't have these cultural divisive issues pushing forward. So he had a record to run on. Now, whether you like him or you don't like him, he had a record of success. So now as the election comes to a close, we have to deal with this choice. And as I've said before, and you and I have talked about this is a binary choice. It's either Trump or it's Harris. Now, I just want to point out, as we start this show today, the Supreme Court of the United States refused to intervene in the state of Michigan, state of Wisconsin, gamesmanship, where Bobby Kennedy wanted his name withdrawn as a nominee for the presidency because he's out there campaigning with and has endorsed President Trump, and they will not let him off the ballot. And that will take votes, I believe, away from Trump, which is a very, very dangerous thing. So my suggestion to the Trump campaign is you get Bobby Kennedy Jr. out there with you in Michigan and Wisconsin and tell the people, don't waste your vote voting for me, vote for Donald Trump. That would be my recommendation if I was a political advisor to the campaign. So what are your thoughts, Jesse, as this election is moving to a close?
Well, you're absolutely right. This has been an election cycle for president that has really truly been going on for about 5 years, from 2020 to 2024. It is strange. We've had, a coup d'etat of a political organization removing their incumbent when the DNC and the power brokers that want to remain in positions of influence, greed, and authority, such as Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and the Obamas, forced out President Joe Biden. Should he have announced he wasn't running for office before 14 million plus votes were cast in primaries in support of him? Absolutely. But certainly after the disaster that what occurred on June 27th of this year in that first debate with Trump, all games and all issues were off the table. And truly, we saw the worst of democracy. We saw the worst of protecting the right of the sanctity of the votes, when the Democratic power brokers decided to rip away their candidate, use tactics such as bottling up his legislative agenda, and also possibly maybe stop blocking, as they had been for 4 years, for his son, Hunter Biden, and his illegal activity, whether it be drugs, guns, prostitution, ties to foreign countries, you name it, everything that was in that laptop that was identified in 2020, but the New York Times and big tech decided to, suppress that information. Or do they want to now come out and really call him what he was that he was not cognitively able to perform the duties and maybe even enact the 25th Amendment? It's funny, though, this all happened after his disaster at the debate. It wasn't for any other reason. Now we have Kamala Harris, who had a sugar high, who had a little bit of a bounce, but someone who has not spoken to the press, someone who has not been vetted, not one vote has been cast for her career ever. And she is now struggling in these waning days. Now we see here, Your Honor, the tale of two closing arguments. Donald Trump, who has identified the problems that average Americans are facing today. And that's not an attack on America, on our Constitution, or our way of life, or our republic. It's simply identifying that inflation's at record highs, at 40-year highs. Unemployment is far too high. The world does not respect or trust a superpower or one-time superpower like the United States did. Our enemies don't fear us. And we have an open border that has basically allowed 220,000 people, illegal migrants, crossing into our borders unscathed, unchecked, which means that we're in a problem with our safety and our security.
Well, it's more than 220,000. It's millions, Jesse.
Millions in total. About 21 million since the Biden and Harris initiatives of removing the Trump era border safeguards that locked our border up, kept important policies like Remain in Mexico in place. When they, by executive order, on day one, did two things: removed more than 60 executive orders to secure our border. They stopped the construction of the wall. And the other thing they did that hurt our economy, which led to high unemployment, high inflation, and a national security issue, is when they ended the United States' ability to be energy independent by ending policies like drilling in Anchorage and also the Keystone Pipeline. So here the American people are seeing two tales. Now President Trump is speaking about a hopeful America, about recapturing the American dream of life, liberty, and the right to prosperity. The opponent, the Democrat, Kamala Harris, is in the mud with vitriol, calling Americans who do not vote for her Nazis, equating the Republican and Republican-minded voters, whether you be independent, blank, or otherwise, Nazis.
What about Biden saying that we're garbage?
The Biden comment. That's right. Calling us garbage. Calling those Americans that may not vote for your failed candidate, your failed hand-picked candidate, that is part and parcel of every failed policy by her own admission. When she said, with most every important decision that Biden made, she was the last person in the room, which means the last voice he heard.
And she wouldn't change anything.
And she would not change anything. So the American people are seeing here right now, we have great energy on the Republican side. We have great numbers on early voting, better than we've ever had, but it does not mean, as the airing of this show, we have 72 hours to Election Day, less than 72 hours to Election Day. And that means I know that in my committee, and the committees like Joe Cairo Nassau's and others throughout the state of New York and throughout the country, we are not slowing down. We are putting our shoulders to the grindstone, and we are making sure that we get every vote possible, because what's at stake here is our constitutional republic. We need to restore law and order. We need to restore energy independence. We need to restore America's presence as a superpower, respected by our allies, confident that our enemies see us as a deterrence to communism and across the board, and totalitarianism. We need to check regimes like Iran, North Korea, Russia, China, and embrace our allies in the in NATO, and of course Israel. So this is a great difference between the way these two campaigns are going about their closing arguments and the way stats are going, whether you like to go on betting sites or you look at Real Clear Politics numbers on a daily basis, or you just talk to the average middle-class voter on the street. This is an important election, a generational election, and I do believe and I'm confident that Donald Trump and the Republicans will be victorious in the Senate, the House of Representatives, for the White House, and of course, down ballot.
Well, that's very well said, Jesse. I have to tell you, her speech that she gave, her closing address to the American people, she tried to put a good face on it, but she still can't call Trump names, and people supported Trump names. But she said she wanted to be the great unifier. We've heard that fiction before, Jesse. We heard it in Biden's inaugural address, where he promised he's to bring this country together, unite us. He's the most divisive president we've had since Barack Obama, another divisive Democratic president. It's staggering. They call people who support Trump, and people like me who are Democrats who support Trump, they call us garbage. They call us fascists. They call us every name in the world. They look down on us in the most condescending way because we don't buy into their left-wing progressive agenda. Call me ridiculous, but I don't believe, as a father and as a grandfather, I should be denied the right to intercede if I think that my child is doing something detrimental to their health and their future by having transgender surgery when they're 12 or 13 years old. I think that's ridiculous, yet that's part of their agenda. I think it's an awful thing to do to a child, to butcher a child. A child wants to make that decision when he or she is of majority age. That's a different discussion. But to castigate and demonize parents who are trying to protect their children, and like in California, you could create a civil right of action and have some guardian go into court and have the kid removed from a parent's household. How ridiculous is that? And if you really want to make it worse, you make it a crime to interfere with the child's protection by the parents. And that's what they want to do. And people say, oh, that's ridiculous. That's absurd. It's not absurd because look at what goes on in California. And that's the model that Harris wants to use. So while she talked about unity and ending divisiveness, her message in her address was of divisiveness, of bad policies. And she plays this very strange game, Jesse. On the one hand, she says she's the voice of reason and of change and of turning the page. And yet she would change nothing at all from what the Biden-Harris administration done. To me, that's absolutely a conflict. Either you've seen things are wrong and they're mistakes and you'll change them, or you're buying into what's before us is just a repeat of bad years of the last 4 years. Final thoughts in this segment, Jesse.
I think you're absolutely right. And let's just talk a little bit about Prop 1. I know we're probably going to touch upon it during the show, but the issue is here. It's very simple. We are a vote no on Prop 1. The Democrat Socialist legislature that controls this state of New York, they had to do this constitutional amendment. And what they did is this should have been gone. It went through the 22 assembly cycle, the state legislative cycle, and it went through the 2023 state legislative cycle, which meant it should have been appearing in the 2023 ballot. But because these socialist Democrats have no confidence in the voters and manipulate the electoral system, they played games with it and put it in 2024. For the only reason being is they hoped that no one would be paying attention because everyone would be focused on the presidential elections, and that they thought that a higher voter turnout was going to come out. Well, a higher voter turnout is going to come up in the presidential election this year, but that higher voter turnout also brings out parents. Proposition 1 is nothing more than giving non-citizens a right to vote, codifying taxpayer benefits for illegal migrants that are here illegally, and worst of all, it allows and codifies boys to play in girls' sports. It allows men to walk into girls' locker rooms or girls' bathrooms, and it takes away parental rights. Ladies and gentlemen, I know you hear us every week. This is something that you don't agree with, parents don't agree with. It doesn't matter what political party you're a member of or how you look at the presidential candidates. Everyone's for parental rights. Everyone's for making sure we protect our young ladies and daughters and sisters and nieces in the bathrooms, the locker rooms, and on the sporting fields.
I agree with you, Jesse. We have to take a break. This is Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Please stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment with more interesting and important conversation.
Let the Record Show is on the air.
Shopping is hard, right? But I found a better way. Stitch Fix online personal styling makes it easy. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And he sends just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and styling tips. I keep what works and send back the rest. It's so easy. Make style easy. Get started today at stitchfix.com/Spotify. That's stitchfix.com/Spotify.
Build professional skills this semester with Adobe Creative Cloud and create standout work both in and out of the classroom. Save big on professional creativity tools. Students get 65% off Adobe Creative Cloud, including Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, Acrobat Pro, and 20+ creative apps. No matter what project you're working on, Adobe Creative Cloud apps can help you take it to the next level. Visit adobe.com/student to learn more.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
We off? 30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes.
Like Doc slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree.
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet.
You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz.
Spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
This is Let the Record Show. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg and Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia.
We're back on Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Joining us in a little while is District Attorney David Soares of Albany with an important message of public safety for the citizens of New York State. So, Jesse, you hear the term, and you know this because you're a political expert, the October surprise. There's always something that they pull out of the woodwork at the end of the election campaign to try to change voters' minds, information or disinformation at the last possible minute. Now, the October surprise Democrats try to push out was that Trump is worse than Hitler, or he is Hitler. He's a fascist. Musk is a Russian spy. This is what the Democrats try to pull. Look, Trump is a lot of things, but a fascist he's not, and there are a lot of institutional protections against that. You have 4 years of seeing how he ran this country, and the one who had fascist tactics used against him were those of the Democratic Party, starting with Hillary Clinton and the dossier, the Steele dossier, the phony impeachments. What else do? They tried this election cycle to deny him the right to be on the ballot and disqualify him. They tried to bankrupt him. They attacked him criminally using the Department of Justice. So who are the fascists? Who are the misusers of the democratic system, the judicial system, the prosecutorial function? It's the Democratic Party. It's Biden. That's who's done it. And that's the real problem. So that's the October surprise. Trump is a fascist. With respect to the not so surprising October surprise, Harris is even worse than we thought. We could even imagine. She's a total lightweight. She's proven she has nothing to say. She has an inability to speak. She engenders no confidence. If she's not on the teleprompter, she has nothing to say. When she does talk, it's all word salad and garbage. An apt term for what she does. It's garbage, intellectual garbage. You don't know what she stands for. But the real surprise is how bad her judgment is, Jesse, in picking this character Walsh, the governor of Minnesota, who has very strong links to communist China, who now turns out to have had a lover whose father was one of the leaders of the Communist Party in China, who's been doing deals and business with the communist China for decades and decades and decades. That's the not so surprising thing about it. Harris is really worse than we even thought she could be. And until the Democrats got all ecstatic that they were getting rid of Biden, how wonderful she was, everybody knew that she was a lightweight and unqualified. Not only unqualified for the vice presidency, but certainly unqualified for the presidency. That is Kamala Harris. Well, Jesse Garcia, who's the vice chair of the state Republican Party and county chair of Suffolk, and I are absolutely honored and delighted to have you on Let the Record Show. Now, you're running for District Attorney of Albany County. And let me just say to our listeners, we've talked before, Mr. District Attorney, and the one thing I always admired about you, and Jesse's always admired about you, is your courage in fighting the fight to protect the citizens of Albany County. But you sent a clear message. It's not just about Albany County. You are a voice of reason and common sense and public safety and law and order. And you are a fighter against these ridiculous raise the age bill or the bills that took away judges' discretion with respect to setting bail on certain kinds of crimes, or the open file discovery laws, which meant that large amount of cases had to be dismissed because they couldn't be processed properly. You're a fighter against that. And your award for protecting the people of Albany and sending a message to the people of New York State, Mr. District Attorney, is they primared you with a left-wing extremist criminal defense lawyer, totally unqualified to serve as the chief prosecutor of Albany County. They want to send a message that if you speak up against the crazy left wing, the radicals, you're going to be punished. And they beat you in a primary because they're better organized and had more money. But you have the courage to stand up, Mr. District Attorney, and you're fighting back with a write-in campaign. Would you please tell our listeners about your write-in campaign and why you're running in November?
Well, it's just as you said, and I thank you very much for that introduction, because it speaks volumes as to what's been happening here in Albany County. And what's happening in Albany County, Your Honor, in terms of public safety, is happening everywhere in the state of New York because of the reckless laws that were passed. Now, I'm a Democrat. I'm a black district attorney. I've been here for over 20 years in office, and I have been supportive of every single public safety policy that has benefited the people of my county. However, 7 years ago, with Raise the Age and bail reform, that has tipped safety in favor of criminals, because now criminals are safe to be able to go out and do what they do, and there's no risk associated with their behavior. We have retail theft that's running amok in our community. We have many individuals here who are committing violent street crimes, and the illegal guns in our community are so bountiful. And I could not accept the low turnout of the primary, which was just about 2,000 votes. I could not accept that as and move ahead after all the work that we've done in this state, myself, along with my partners in law enforcement, and I decided to conduct a write-in. And if people want to see what's going on, go to davidsoares.com, DAVIDSOARES.com. Our campaign has gained momentum. We have knocked on the doors of not only Democrats, but Republicans. We've also knocked on the doors of our independents voters as well as our conservatives. We are giving every single person in Albany County a voice and an opportunity to vote for common sense as it relates to public safety. I love my party. I've been a Democrat my whole life, but on this issue of public safety, I can only say that my party has been reckless in abiding by the terms of advocates and criminal defense lawyers. That's just absurd.
Jesse, questions and comments with Attorney David Soares.
Pleasure to speak with you again. And I know we spoke right before primary, and I have to tell you, your record on crime and public safety is second to none. And I believe that your decision is one that is merited. It should be heralded, because you're doing this not about politics or party affiliations. You're doing this for the people you represent in Albany County. And this is coming from a Republican speaking to a Democrat. But like many of you, many prosecutors out here that we have been seeing, we've been seeing that their hands are being tied by these laws. They're not, so as judges their hands are being tied. And the cooperation with law enforcement groups like police officers and such is being curtailed. Perhaps maybe you can tell us and educate the voters a little bit how, your approach in prosecuting criminals has kept the people of Albany County safe as you navigate these ill-advised laws that empower crime and handcuff prosecutors, judges, and cops.
We have stayed aggressive. We are fighting every single decision that is being made by the courts. And by the way, as you said, and notably so, our judges also have their hands tied. But every single shooting, every single gun possession case that is possessed by a 16 or a 17-year-old, we are in family court fighting for that case. Imagine that. These days, when a 16-year-old, 17-year-old is brandishing a weapon, a fully loaded weapon, that person goes to family court where they're getting juice, crackers, and whatever therapy they get, and they're released right back out on the street only to do the same thing. The rate of recidivism involving our youth and the violence that they're perpetrating in our community is closing our businesses down. It is creating a fear in people visiting our wonderful city. And my fellow Democrats, what they do is they continue to read the company line about the trend in crime going down when nothing can be further from the reality that we're experiencing. And again, I have to tip my cap to our law enforcement. And I know that, people were calling for defunding the police. And while some cities may not have defunded them, there are surely the activists and the politicians that have demoralized them. And so we're all working under a lot of pressure. But my choices after the primary was to be a sitting duck for the several months or to rise like a phoenix. And my team and I have been on the doors. We have spoken to people in Albany County. What we need right now is more help. We need some contributions. I'm hoping that people will go to davidsoares.com and donate to our race, because this isn't just an Albany County issue. We want all of the people in Albany County to speak with one voice and send a message to the leadership that will be here in Albany County, and hopefully they will start to dial back on the reforms that they passed, that, as I said, that has just destroyed everything in the criminal justice system.
We're speaking with David Soares, who's the District Attorney of Albany County. David, would you please tell our listeners, if they go in to vote in Albany County and you're a write-in, how do they do that?
It is the sixth column that is the district attorney's race. And what they can do is go all the way to the bottom of the ballot where they will see a write-in. They need to fill in that bubble and then spell DAVID SOARES. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this message with your audience, sir. We have to reclaim our city, our county, and we have to reclaim our state. Well,
District Attorney David Soares, I have to tell you, speaking for myself and for Jesse, we're honored and privileged to have had you on the show this time as well as previously. You're a man of courage and intellect. You're right on the issues. Public safety is essential if we're going to have a civilized society. You're a fighter for that. Your election or re-election to this office is important because, as you correctly point out, you send a message to the power brokers. Enough is enough of this garbage protecting defendants and letting people who would victimize their fellow human beings out on the streets with a reckless disregard for their fellow human beings. So I say, on behalf of myself and Chairman Garcia, God bless you. God bless your fight. I hope that on Tuesday night I see an overwhelming write-in vote for you and that you're reelected as the District Attorney of Albany County. Thank you very, very much for joining Let the Record Show with Chairman Garcia and myself. And just think of that. Here you have the Republican vice chair of the state party and the Democrat saying, vote write-in. So people vote write-in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. Thank you.
Well, Jesse, isn't it a shame that a man of courage and ability loses a primary and 2,000 votes and it'll destroy the city of Albany? Isn't that awful?
It is awful, especially for cheap, petty politics, where, I mean, only 2,000 people come out to decide that the future of crime fighting and prosecution in a county that's had its problems with crime. Let's be perfectly honest here. And he has been basically, the safeguard to even further crimes. And part of this is what we've been talking about. You have the George Soros of the world. You have these elitists, these progressives, and these socialists that want to dismantle the fabric of our country, the fabric of our state, and truly embrace criminality and encourage it, as opposed to supporting our law enforcement officers, our cops on the beat, our prosecutors, and giving the judges the tools they need that they were elected to by the people to execute. It's preposterous on my end. I hope he is successful, but someone with that type of character, Your Honor, the people of that county will see through that. I hope that he is successful, and I will tell him, if I had the opportunity, and if he's listening now, that once he is successful, and even if he's not successful, the Republican Party is ready to embrace him as part of our team. We are a big tent. We have a diverse spectrum of opinions, and we are one when it comes here on crime fighting.
Your point is very well taken. They beat good DAs, whether they're incumbents running for re-election or they're open seats. Good people, they beat them with money funded by left-wing groups like the Soros Group. Their goal is to dismantle law enforcement and public safety and to turn over important functions of prosecutorial responsibility to people who are not qualified, who have an ideological agenda to go soft on crime. It's a shame to lose somebody like David Soares. So for all the people who are listening in Albany, please go out, do the write-in for David Soares, DAVID SOARES, for Albany County District Attorney. This is Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Please stay with us. We'll be back in a few moments. We'll be joined in a little while by State Senator George Borrello, a leader of the Republican Party in our state Senate, and who will talk to us about the dangers of Proposition 1, as well as the need to break the supermajority of the Democratic monopoly up in Albany. This is Let the Record Show. We'll be back in a few moments.
This is Let the Record Show.
Fellas, you know Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere, nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
My name is Lily, and I've had hidradenitis suppurativa, HS, for years. I finally found some relief since taking Cosentyx. Relief means I can show up more.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Don't use if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like tuberculosis or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some are fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
This is Let the Record Show. Now, here are your hosts, Judge Richard Weinberg and Suffolk County Republican Committee Chairman Jesse Garcia.
Welcome back to Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia of the Republican Party. Jesse is the Vice Chair of the State Republican Party and the County Chair of the Suffolk County Party. I'm Judge Richard Weinberg. Well, that was an interesting conversation with David Soares, the DA in Albany County. You know, as I sit back and I think about these things, and unfortunately I'm addicted to public policy and politics and government and law, I just can't escape it. But it's not about my views or what's important to me. Because I've reached that stage in life, Jesse, what's important to me is the future of our city, our state, our country. I worry about it. I worry about it for our children. I worry about it for our grandchildren. I want to make sure that those young people have the opportunities that we had to work hard, to study hard, to make something themselves, to accumulate assets, to be productive citizens, to give back to the large community. That's what I want. This is not about me. My time will be over soon enough. It's about the people who come after me. And one of the things I will tell you that's deeply troubling is what I call the death of the American dream. And my question to you and to myself and to our listeners, can it be resurrected? Can the American dream be resurrected? So let me submit to you as follows. Number one, if you're voting for Harris, this is what you're voting for. Higher taxes, more regulation, more disincentives to productivity, price fixing, which has never worked. Higher taxes, disincentive to productivity, price fixing that doesn't work. It's a shame that they do this. I mean, Elizabeth Warren, the renegade senator from Massachusetts, she wants to penalize people who want to make contributions of capital to small businesses. She calls it a scam, that they shouldn't be allowed to do this. Private equity shouldn't be allowed to do this. She not only wants to limit it or ban it as a matter of civil law, she wants to make it a crime. Now, if you don't have money from private equity to put into a business, who are you going to rely on, Jesse? You're going to rely on government. And what has the Biden-Harris administration shown? They'll give plenty of money out, but it has to be their political partisans, their ideological brothers and sisters, to failed schemes like green new energy and solar panels and wind that don't work to provide the energy that we need. So you have a vision that's doomed to failure. My children have to worry about, will they have enough money to buy a house? Because the interest rates are skyrocketing, Jesse, and they can't afford to buy a house. And then Harris, in a fundamental tactics to buy votes, says, well, we'll just give them another $25,000 to a down payment. What she doesn't understand, since she's never had a real job in her entire career, what has she done? She's just saying, I'll give you $25,000 just because I want to buy the votes. What happens when you go to the market? If I'm a seller of a house, Jesse, I just add $25,000 more to the price. So it's inflationary, and it doesn't help anybody. What are your thoughts?
The American dream is not about handouts. The American dream is your self-reliance, your ability to carve the life that you want to carve out your own successes, to follow your entrepreneurial spirit, to follow the call, maybe to public service or to community service and serving your community. It is the individual giving to the whole. That is what the American dream is, that you can be someone like myself, the son of two immigrants who is a first generation and was able to get a good education, work in get some jobs that help me build the person I am. And now what I'm doing, I'm leading one of the most significant political organizations in the state, if not, dare I say, in the country. That's the American dream. And I do, but maybe call me an eternal optimist. Maybe it's for where I came from, where my father immigrated from Cuba. He defected from Cuba, if I should be more specific, because he saw the totalitarianism and the way that the government, if they give you and provide you everything, can also hold you down. That means you will always be at that level. Not here in America. So perhaps I am an eternal optimist when it comes to the American dream and the American exceptionalism. Two things I truly believe in, because I believe that I contributed to the exceptionalism in supporting our founding fathers' principles, and of course the American dream of where I am now with my own family. But I do believe it's attainable. I believe this is a generational election. You articulated the issues and the obstacles that our voters are being confronted with. But honestly, this all lies in the hands of the voters of Suffolk County, the voters of New York, the voters of our country. And honestly, it boils down to about 7 battleground states. If they want to choose a country of capitalism, the American dream is where it's attainable, where home ownership is possible and affordable, where a good paying job is based on your skill other than some type of checkerboard, report card that you have to get, that you are taxed low, and receive the services that you need. That education is fair and neutral and goes back to our founding fathers and the history of this country, and we get back to writing, arithmetic, social studies, civics. And of course, there's the other side, the socialist side, where the government controls the economy, controls the industry, controls the individual. That's what the Democrats want to do. They want to bring us back to 1984 and George Orwell story. They want to bring us back to that old Apple commercial where, computers are just robotic and it's monotoned in one way, but it's not. American spirit is not going to be held back. We are going to become energy independent. We are going to have a strong economy. Inflation is going to come down. Jobs are going to be plentiful. Wages are going to go up. Home ownership is going to rise. And we're going to be respected in the world and not fearful of our enemies. We can do that by voting for Donald Trump and the Republican ticket down ballot. If you want to stay the course of being a laughingstock on the world stage and a country stalled economically and being overrun by crime, then Kamala Harris is your candidate. If you want boys in the locker room and you want boys competing against your daughters, your nieces, your sisters, Kamala Harris and the Democrats is your vote. Cast your ballot for that. If you want prosperity, liberty, and the right for freedoms, it's Donald Trump and the Republican Party. The decision could not be more clear. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a generational election. Our nation's at a pivoting point. It's in your hands, and I am confident you will make the right decisions.
Well, listen, I have to tell you something. People say, oh, it's not a big deal, but I'm a Democrat, and it's always been a Republican issue to try to have balanced budgets and avoid deficit spending. People say, what's the difference? We'll just pay the interest and just keep going forward and forward and forward. We'll borrow more money, keep going forward, forward, forward. Ultimately, that bubble has to burst, Jesse, because so much money is paid on the interest of government debt that you're not going to have enough money to pay for all the social programs that even the Democrats say we have to have. So if you believe in social programs, and I do, like Medicare or Social Security, you have to have the money to do it. And you have to have money for a strong national defense, because without a strong national defense, our enemies will overrun us. This is serious business. So the deficit spending bills that were pushed through by this administration, with Harris being the tie-breaking vote to push all these frauds on the American people, so-called Inflation Reduction Act, it increased inflation. And inflation has made the American dream a distant hope for large numbers of people. And this is a big, big problem. And I'm very concerned about this.
Absolutely. And I think that it's a concern that's shared by tens of millions of Americans and New Yorkers right here in our own state.
Has Senator Borrello joined us? Senator.
Yes, I'm on.
Good.
How are you, sir?
Good to hear your voice. So with us, Senator, is our mutual and good friend, Chairman Garcia of the Republican Party, a man you know well. I understand you're out in Suffolk the other day with Senator Ort, visiting with Jesse. Yes. How wonderful that must have been.
It was a great event, and boy, they know how to rally the troops out there in Suffolk, that's for sure.
Well, as you know, gentlemen, I have a house out in Suffolk, and I know it's in good hands because Chairman Garcia is the Republican County Chair of Suffolk County. And last week we had one of your colleagues, Senator, or the week before, Senator Palumbo, who represents the district where my house is, a wonderful man and a great public servant. We had him on the show. What Jesse and I want to talk to you about are two issues, Senator. Now, you're one of the leaders of the state Senate, and you're one of the people who's most responsible for trying to bring back common sense to Albany. And how do you do that? The first issue is you have to stop this overwhelming Democratic supermajority, which means that every kind of ridiculous left-wing progressive proposal can be passed, and even if the governor had the courage or the strength to veto it, they can override the veto. So Jesse and I have been talking for years about stopping this supermajority, and you're leading that campaign with Senator Ort, and you'd be commended. The other issue Jesse and I want to talk to you about is Proposition 1, which I respectfully submit is a death blow to the future of New York State if it goes through. Which topic would you like to discuss first, Senator Borrello?
Well, why don't we start with the fact that the Prop 1 is an incredibly damaging and I would say evil. I would put it into the category of evil piece of legislation that satisfies the most radical fringe elements in politics. But to combine it with the idea of a veto-proof supermajority, this is the reason why we have radical pieces of legislation like this that are getting passed by the governor, by the legislature, and then signed by the governor because of the fact that they have this veto-proof supermajority. So we're going to combine both issues, I guess. But let's start with Prop 1. This is a Trojan horse like never seen before. Attorney Bobby Ann Cox and her group, Congressman Lee Zeldin, have been fighting the good fight. But the people of New York State don't realize the flowery language that you see is just a Trojan horse. It is covering up what this change to our New York State Constitution will actually do. It will absolutely take away parental rights because you cannot discriminate based on age. Such a broad language that it doesn't give any guardrails whatsoever. It will give non-citizens the rights that New York State citizens have, rights to all of the benefits a New York State citizen has, including the right to vote, because you cannot discriminate based on national origin. Again, no guardrails, no limits. And it will allow men to compete in women's sports and to violate women's spaces. We're talking about men competing in women's sports, using their locker rooms, using their bathrooms, being eligible for their scholarships. The party of the so-called Party of Women's Rights, the Democrat Party, can't tell you what a woman is, and this is proof of that. They want to make sure that we will no longer be able to define someone based on being male and female, and that is what Prop 1 will do. It is the most dangerous piece of legislation I have ever seen in my life.
And I agree with that, and Jess and I have been talking about this. I'll tell you, it's having been the general counsel of the New York City Council, drafted hundreds, maybe thousands of pieces of legislation, either personally or with my staff, and having to either defend them in court or advocate for them before bar associations and community groups and editorial boards. I'll tell you this. It's limitless what harm they can do with this legislation. So, for example, they can make New York State a permanent sanctuary state, not cooperate with the federal government. They can create entitlements that people should not have. So, for example, reparations. They'll give out reparations, which will bankrupt the state of New York to selected classes of people that they believe should have reparations. If a father or mother doesn't want their 12-year-old child butchered by a doctor and tries to intercede in that before the kid is 12 years old, who's a minority, a nurse can't give a kid an aspirin in a public school without parental consent, but they can be butchered, and you can hide the fact that the kids are going through transition surgeries from the parents. And the schools could be banned from telling the parents this is going on. And if a parent tries to intercede, they can be prosecuted both civilly and criminally, and a kid could be taken away from them. This is serious business, Senator. What say you?
Absolutely. This is the state interceding and acting as the parental figure. It is the nightmare scenarios you saw in Nazi Germany and in communist countries in the former Soviet Union. This is the kind of thing where the state believes they are going to have dominion over children. That's what this will do. Now, you may say, well, there are other states that have passed similar protections, and that hasn't happened. First of all, I challenge that. In California, which passed a similar law with many more restrictions, many more guardrails, they sued and said that now Medicaid benefits, the most expensive part of our budget in New York State, Medicaid benefits in California now will, by constitutional law, will now have to be given to illegal immigrants in California because they changed the state constitution and said we cannot discriminate someone based on national origin.
Right, and I'll turn this over to Jesse, but the point is the language is so broad, it's so vague, you can push anything through it, and that's the danger. They call it an equal rights amendment. It's not. Jesse, we have 3 minutes to go. Your turn.
Senator, thank you again. I mean, we had a packed house on about a week ago on Monday night with Anthony Palumbo over in Miller Place and rallying for him. So thank you, and Senator Ord, the Republican conference leader, for being there. You guys have been great partners for our 4 senators and our 7 senators here, first in Suffolk and, of course, in Nassau and Long Island as a whole. But I think that people should know, along with this is really attacking on parents' rights, is the fact that the way the Democrats manipulated this to ensure that it became part of the presidential election process, as opposed to in 2023 when it was supposed to have gone on the ballot. Can you speak to that issue a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they're saying this is a constitutional crisis, that we have to do this now because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. By the way, I just saw a UAlbany law professor that was speaking out saying that there is no way, the way this language is written, it's actually going to protect the right to an abortion. So they even screwed up the easy part, quite honestly. But to your point, if this is such a crisis, that why wasn't it put on the ballot a year ago? This was passed in plenty of time that it could have been on the November 2023 ballot, but they chose to hold it over for 2 reasons. Number one, to drive their voter base out, because they feel that this is going to be something that's going to drive the base out in a year when Democrats have literally nothing else to run on but abortion, because the state is in such shambles under their leadership. And number two, because they felt that there would just be more people coming out that wouldn't inform themselves on the damaging consequences of Prop 1. Low information voters, as they're often referred to. That's what they were counting on to pass this. But people are waking up. People are realizing what damage this will do, and I believe we have a good shot of overturning this and making sure it does not appear and does not pass this year and does not become a part of our Constitution.
Well, I want to make a final comment to you, Senator, and to you, Mr. Chairman. This is such a bad proposal that even Newsday newspaper, which tilts to the progressive left, the Democratic Party, opposes this as being overbroad and vague and a dangerous piece of legislation. Even Newsday has come out against this. And by the way, when Governor Hochul the other day said the people who oppose this are evil, she's attacked all those people of faith who believe, the Catholic Church, for example, and practicing Catholics, and other religions as well. People who believe that this is dangerous in terms of parents' rights and real equal rights for people and protecting our daughters and our granddaughters, they're calling us evil.
Yes.
Imagine that.
Outrageous.
And that's the governor of the state of New York, another Democrat who says she's a great unifier. Senator George Borrello, thank you very much for joining Chairman Garcia and myself. Please, people, when you go out and vote, whether it's early voting or on Tuesday, please go out. Make sure you vote the right way. You have to vote to protect the state. The way to do that is stop the supermajority in the state legislature of the Democrats. You have to vote Republican in the state legislature if you want to save this state. And you have to vote down Proposition 1, which is a consumer fraud. It's a deception of the people. Don't buy it. They're selling you a rotten apple. Do not buy it. This has been Let the Record Show with Chairman Jesse Garcia. We've been honored and privileged to have Senator George Borrello of the New York State Legislature with us, as well as David Soares, the District Attorney of Albany County. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and God bless your families, and of course, God bless America.
This is Let the Record Show.